Hello everyone. This YouTube series is designed to discuss existence of binomial coefficients and Pascal triangle in ancient Sri Lankan literature. Basically, I will be reviewing papers written by one Chandana Jayawardena. And first I have to say that he has done a great job bringing in these ancient books into forefront with mathematical ideas. As we know that our great historians, Senrat Parnavitana and Don Martino, Wickramasinghe and H.C. Bell, Hugh Neville, etc., they were not really mathematicians. So they did not really had the background knowledge to bring in these mathematical aspects in ancient literature. So I would say in that regard, this person, Chandana Jayawardena, has taken a new step, bringing in these ideas that are in ancient Sri Lankan books. And especially he is reviewing a book called Vuttodaya, written in 12th, 13th century by a Buddhist monk named Sangharakkhita. So this is a very good set of papers that he has written. And so I will be reviewing them and make it simplify. So this YouTube series is basically in three parts. Part 1 is general introduction. Part 2 is background knowledge required. That would be binomial theorem, Pingala's Meru Prasthara, or today known as Pascal's triangle. And the part 3, basically part 2 is the background knowledge required. And part 3 is the review of the 13th century Sinhalese book, Vuttodaya. So in this general introduction, we would see these are the papers: Ancient Mathematical Practices in Sri Lanka, a survey based on the Pujavaliya. And Pujavaliya has very interesting mathematical problems. Like one problem, it says that if a worm can eat the brain, there are two worms. One worm is long and the one worm is shorter. And the longer, bigger worm can eat the brain in 5 days. And the shorter worm can eat the brain in 7 days. If both worms were in the brain, how many days would it take for those worms to eat the brain? That kind of questions, you could try yourself. So the longer, bigger worm can eat the brain in 5 days. Shorter, smaller worm can eat the brain in 7 days. Both together, how many days? It's a simple question, but for those, in ancient times, these type of questions were found to be a little difficult. So this paper, Ancient Mathematical Practices in Sri Lanka, a survey based on the Pujavaliya by Chandana Jayawardena. And then there's another paper I found, Counting and Computation Abilities in Early Sri Lanka, a review based on Buddhist literature by the same author. And if you go to the papers, which I am interested in mostly, combination and binomial expansion. So this is the one that I am mostly concentrating on, combination and binomial expansion. The literature. So basically, the Sinhalese authors, this person Sangharakkhita in 12th century, written a book called Vuttodaya based on basically Pingala, the Indian poet, but was a mathematician who came up with the idea of Meru Prasthara, today known as Pascal's triangle. So he says that this monk Sangharakkhita says the science of metrics, that would be how various syllables are arranged. Sa, Ri, Ga, Ma. There are certain arrangement in in poetry. So that's what the metrics is called. The science of metrics compiled by authorities like Pingala in the past does not fulfill the needs of the students whose learning is limited to the language of Magadhi, Shuddha Magadhi, it says. Therefore, this book named Vuttodaya, which is consisting of derivatives of syllabic instances and syllables, and there is a technical name here, Mattavanna Vibedana, exemplary verses, Lakka Lakkana, clear meaning and order of the words, different form of the Vedic meter and in accordance with mundane meter, is compiled to the benefit of such students. So this monk Sangarakita knew of Pingala's work and built upon it for Sinhala. And then there's a method called Pattara, which we would discuss in the third part of this YouTube series. I hope you would listen to the third part. And there are 4 syllables and how those 4 syllables could be arranged in so actually 2 syllables arranged in 4 places. So that we would discuss. And there's another algorithm called Natta and various other algorithms, Guru Kriya, and you would see so-called Pascal's triangle. Stick around to part 3 and you would see what they did, and etc. So basically, this is the roundup of the YouTube series. So again, I will be in how to get this here. Okay, so in part 1, which I just did the general introduction, and in part 2 we would do background knowledge. So join me in part 2. Thanks.